This is Lauren King. We're going to learn all about you, but the biggest thing and why you're here is because you just finished one of the biggest historic swims that Hawaii has to offer, the Kaiwi Channel, and you you just finished. How do you feel? How did you celebrate?
I feel very sore. It's an odd sport because afterwards you do not feel like celebrating. Your mouth tastes of salt, your tongue is mangled by the seawater, and you and your crew really just want to crash and sleep for 12 hours. But it was a real delight to be back in the Pacific and swimming sort of in the islands. My family's originally from New Zealand. One of the swims that really meant a lot to me was Cook Strait, sort of like going home. And so I think for this swim, I was sort of telling myself that I'm with extraordinarily generous and experienced and formidably competent people all around me. And it was beautiful being in the water. And so afterwards, I think we all just felt relief and that sort of quiet joy. It was just really, really nice. And not all swims end like that. Some end very, very miserably.
How long were you in the water exactly?
So we were in the water 13 hours, 18 minutes, 55 seconds. Yeah, so about over 13 hours. There was a brief point where we thought we might have a little faster, and then we realized we were really going to have to push hard at the end and hold it together, but we got in before sunset, so that's what we were aiming for.
You wanted to get in faster. What slowed you down?
A massive current sweeping down the shore of Molokai Island, which again is no surprise. I mean, the ocean doesn't lend itself to easy predictions, so we had a great current going across, but we knew there's probably some surprises waiting for us, and sure enough, when we got there.
So you went from Oahu to Molokai?
We went to Oahu to Molokai, which is again not the most common crossing route, but it's entirely feasible to swim under the conditions. And again, with the kinds of expertise we have with Steve and with our pilot Jamie, we knew these were the conditions that day, that block. This could happen, and it would probably be a good swim. So they tell me to get in at 4 in the morning. I get to Sandy Beach, get my ass in the butt, get my butt in the water.
The route itself varies in distance depending on, I guess, the angle or the trajectory you take. How long exactly was your route from Oahu to Molokai?
So we must have swum about 47 kilometers and change. The crossing itself usually ranges, I think, between anywhere from 42 to 45 kilometers, depending.
What is that for those who don't know the metric system?
Oh, sorry, about 26 miles.
You swam about a marathon.
We swam about a marathon and change. Wow. That last little dip at the end.
You mentioned the current proved to be a challenge. Was that the biggest challenge, or were there any other unexpected things in the water?
We met a shark, which was exciting. And that was yeah, really. I keep emphasizing this point about local knowledge, local expertise, and the kind of just generosity and experience of the people who make these swims happen. And Jamie Barlow is a trained scientist and an extraordinarily experienced captain and fisherman, and actually has tagged a great many sharks, although apparently not the one that visited us. And just his calm and demeanor, his expertise, his leading me through figuring out if this was a shark I should worry about, if this was a shark that was just passing through and curious. It was odd because all my friends on our social media feed at the time were like, "What? It's a shark!" But I honestly didn't feel any sense of sort of panic or fear, and I think that was largely because the crew just seemed, especially Jamie, just seemed to have it all together and was just telling me, "This is what you should look for. Are you seeing this?" I was like, "No." And then yeah, I guess we just keep swimming, and that's what we did.
So how far estimated was that shark from you?
It was, I think, fair distance. I mean, I could see it under the boat and down at quite a depth. As we're swimming, there are schools of smaller fish that will sometimes follow the boat, and I wondered if it was sort of curious about that because it was on the other side of that school of smaller fish, and it was just quite deep, just cruising around, and then just seemed to lose interest once we started swimming again.
Didn't bother you at all?
Well, I mean, you're obviously concerned. I think we have some audio and a video of the conversation. I think at one point I said, "It's not going to take a chomp out of me," and Jane was like, "Yeah, no," and I think the phrase was, "This silky shark, you treat these more like just sort of curious puppy dogs looking around."
Is that the type of shark, or?
It seems as though we're pretty sure it was a silky shark.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't think we have a size, but you'll hear in the audio, I think the professional assessment was it's a decent-sized silky.
Whatever that means. That could mean
It can mean a lot of different things, but
from one person to another.
Yeah. And yeah, as I was floating there and just trying to position myself where the captain tells me to be, I could see it under the boat, see it sort of cruising around. But yeah, I mean, I think that's just a testament to this kind of expertise and experience in the crew that, as a swimmer, I never felt there was any problem. And if there were a problem, the crew would tell me, and the captain would explain exactly what I got to do. And what the captain said was, "Let's keep swimming," and that's what we did.
Were there any points in the entire journey, not just with the shark, but were there any points that you felt like you weren't going to make it and that you might have to call it a day?
This is my second attempt at this crossing, and I would say, again, just to circle back to just the feeling I had about being back in the islands and being back in the Pacific, this time I really felt like I was home. I felt like we were having a great time, and we were all clicking, and everything was coming together. And even the times when probably objectively it might have been that, oh, you got this far, but now we're just going to be blasted out into the ocean. But even there, I think I just felt like you just got to push hard and trust the crew, trust the pilot, and get to that other side. So yeah, mostly your mind's pretty focused on that. You're not worrying too much. Now again, that's not always true. Some swims you're tormented and sure it's not going to happen, and frustrated and angry and feeling that this is the most foolish hobby you could ever imagine, and why don't I take up golf? But this was not one of those swims, thankfully, and it was just a real delight just to be surrounded by friends and an extraordinary crew, and yeah, just to be there in that water.
You mentioned the crew a lot, that their support, you couldn't have done the swim without them. Are there any things that you tell yourself in the water, like a mantra to keep you going, or any checkpoints in your head that allow you to keep pushing when it gets physically and mentally exhausting?
Yeah, I mean, I think each swimmer has their own strategies, their own techniques, their own ways of coping with the fact that, look, this is not a very exciting sport when you're doing it. This is a long time just staring into the deep, and often you're telling yourself, well, I'm not swimming 26 miles, I'm swimming to the next feeding, where the next time my crew throws the bottle at me. And yeah, I think often, Lynn is a dear friend, and we've done a lot of swims together. We swim around Manhattan Island together. We train a lot together. So yeah, I mean, we sort of know each other inside out in terms of how we swim, how we perform, what we need when we're in trouble. And I guess I always had that confidence and that trust that, look, if this starts going south and I start really feeling like this is not coming together, I guess I was sure that Lynn would be able to talk me through it and just make sure I kept swimming. And yeah, I think in this case, it all came together really nicely. Yeah, it was just a really wonderful time to be out in the water.
You mentioned that this was your second attempt. When was the first attempt, and what brought that first attempt to a stop, I imagine?
We tried this a little over a year ago, so a little earlier in the season, and we were a different captain and a different crew, and I think I just wasn't. There were a few things. I'm not getting any younger. I'm not a young swimmer. I'm 57 years old. And there are things about your body as you change that you have to sort of, if you're going to keep swimming and doing these crazy things, you have to sort of learn to adapt to your changing body, and certainly you have to train around that. And I think the last time there were things I just hadn't really trained for, and I just wasn't really feeling like this was coming together. It was also a night we started over on Molokai and we're swimming through the night, and I couldn't ignore the fact that there had been 2 swims prior to mine in roughly the same windows and roughly the same time frames where there had been cookie cutter shark attacks. I wouldn't say it was weighing on my mind, but I certainly think it added to the sense that between my, I think, insufficient preparation and training, not so much physical training, but just training. Oh, so here's something that most people don't think about when you're swimming for 12, 13, 14 hours. You've got to be peeing while you're swimming, or peeing somewhere somehow. And yeah, that's something that you have to really train your body to do. And yeah, as you get older, there are the ways your body changes where it was like, I didn't expect this. And while you could probably figure it out and force your way through, it's one of those things that's weighing in your head, and maybe you're feeling like the stroke's just not there, it's dark, didn't the last guy get chomped by one of these cookies? That's all going through your head and kind of psyching you out. There's an old expression in the English Channel lore that 80% of this is in your head. Now, the other 20% is really important, but I think that's probably right, that if things aren't working out in your head and you're talking yourself into I think really sort of just self-defeating spaces or places of fear and doubt, then yeah, it's just I wasn't feeling it, and so we just stopped about a little before halfway across the channel. Now Steve's research on cookie cutter shark attacks I learned about afterwards and was reading quite carefully, and it's really quite extraordinary. Just again, the importance of local knowledge and people who are really thinking about their home waters and the local conditions. And so one of the things we did this time, we're starting on Oahu, and we were going to be into the deeper part of the channel well into daylight. And Steve's research suggests that the cookie cutter shark attacks usually are a predation strategy that they wouldn't normally pursue, that it's just in the dark, they're not responding to their visual signals, so they're hearing audio responses and saying, I'll go take a chomp. But if they could see that it's not their regular prey, they wouldn't bother. And so, yeah, this time we aim to be in the daylight in that deep channel. And again, who knows, if that's not saying I would have gotten nibbled on if I'd continued the year before, but it's certainly, as that subjective sort of taking something off your mind, it was like, okay, look, this is where the evidence points, and here we are. It's bright and sunny, we're in the deep channel. Now, of course, we met a different shark, but this one at least was pretty bored and didn't hang around. So yeah, those are I think the big differences between the attempts.
You mentioned that you felt there was almost a lack of preparation. This time around, what does that prep look like physically, as far as how long are you swimming every day? How many times a week are you swimming? Distance and duration?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's sort of two philosophies in the community we're all a part of, the marathon swimming community. And one is, I think, an older approach, which is just look, pile on the miles, right? And get out in the ocean, get out in lakes, get outside as much as you can. And that's a good strategy, right? As much for the mental preparation as the physical. But even as I get a bit older as a swimmer, I still cleave to I think the newer training approach, which focuses a lot more on intense, shorter interval work in the pool and not worrying as much about racking up, massive distances. So I was focusing a lot more on the kind of training, frankly, I would have been doing as a pool swimmer, in my teen years. I was focusing on interval training, on short 100-meter bursts, 100-yard bursts, focusing on really getting my heart rate up, and worrying less about, I've got to get massive swims in so my shoulders can handle this huge volume. I was more thinking, is my stroke the kind of stroke that's going to last for 12, 13 hours without, hurting my shoulders? And so, yeah, I think it was much more a more technically focused training regimen. I would try not to do more than 30 kilometers a week, which is about, say 20 miles a week, say, in the pool. And And if I found myself doing a lot of longer, slower pool swims, I'd stop and sort of consult friends, and Lynn would help me out thinking through workouts. And we try and, again, focus on the more intense interval training. And it worked. So that was a bit of a reassurance. And in strength training, we do a lot of dry land training just to make sure the joints can handle the kind of loads we put on them.
What do you do for work outside of the swimming pool?
So I'm a university professor in Canada, at a small university in Ontario, in the greater orbit of Toronto. I teach at Wilfrid Laurier University. My wife's a professor at McMaster University. These are two schools, again, in sort of southern Ontario and sort of the intellectual orbit of our major city in Canada, in that part of Canada, Toronto. I teach politics and philosophy, and I like to say that my swimming hobby is really a way to avoid work emails. There's no way the students will find me, but that's not true, because I was checking my email just before we swam. But I also do a fair bit of work on water advocacy and awareness around issues of urban watersheds and urban water quality. And recently, my academic and my advocacy work have been more closely related, and a lot of my professional work thinks about how we live in cities and how we think about water, which I think, frankly, is going to be the dominant concern in the next century. Is we're going to have the majority of people on this planet living in cities, and many of those parts of the planet are going to be facing chronic water scarcity. And so the idea that we could think about cities as places where we could swim, we could drink, we could fish. The swim, drink, fish movement is a big part of sort of what we do as swimmers now, certainly in our corner of the community in Canada. And so, so I guess I haven't kept my hobbies entirely separate now from my work, but certainly thinking about, the students I teach. What are they going to take into the future? And I want thinking about water to be a part of that, and having future generations have places where we don't just think of, well, it's the harbor, it's the working harbor. You would never swim there. So why not? There are a lot of cities in the world now. The Swimmable Cities movement is really bringing attention to the idea that we should always be closely tied to the waters we're living near and a part of. And for too long, we sort of tended to be emotionally and imaginatively separated from those waters. And so one of our movements around swimming is to sort of bring that attention back to our home waters. And it's definitely been a part of what motivates me.
Earlier you said that this was a return to the Pacific for you, and I think you said you had swam a crossing in New Zealand.
Yeah.
What other crossings have you done?
So I've done a couple of the fairly well-known ones, the more popular ones, the English Channel. I've done a swim in Los Angeles area, but from Catalina Island back to San Pedro area. That's a famous swim, the Catalina Channel. Lynn and I swim around Manhattan, which is another delightful and famous swim, although water quality there is quite an issue on one part of it as you're coming up the Harlem River. But that was wonderful. I swam Lake Ontario, which is my home waters. That was a 52-kilometer swim from near the U.S. border at the Niagara River over to Toronto area. And those are some of the big ones I've tackled. But I've certainly failed a lot of swims too. I've tried swims in Ireland that just been astonishingly cold, that I just clearly find a lot more difficult than some of my fellow swimmers. But it's one of those things. There's always another cool place to swim and another body of water where you could look and think, hey, I wonder if we could swim across there. and that's part of the real joy about being back here with Steve and his crew with the Hawaiian Channel Swimming Association and the Maui Nui Swim Group. They really embody that kind of infectious enthusiasm. Just saying, hey, I wonder if we could swim that. I wonder if we could swim from here to this island and back here. And that's really the spirit of this, I think, is just really finding that joy and that sense of curiosity and getting in the water. And yeah, so yeah, I've chalked off a few big ones, but there's always more exciting things to swim.
Are you trying to do the Ocean 7?
I suppose it would look suspiciously like I am, because I've done some of them. And they are all really wonderful swims. Steve Munatome came up with the list, and yeah, they're just all really kind of iconic bodies of water in really interesting places. I guess we'll see. There are other swims I would sort of be more interested in, you know, before trying to check off lists. Like here, Steve's group does the Maui Nui swim. I think that looks like a really delightful swim, and if Lynn and I could get on board with that, I think we'd love to do it. There's a wonderful swim in the south of New Zealand, the Fovo Strait, which is an extraordinarily sort of challenging swim that there's people I look upon who swim that with such admiration and awe. It's cold, it's rough, it's at the end of the world, it's, you know, on the verge of the Southern Ocean. Recently it's had a lot of great whites lingering about, but when you just look at it, you think, oh, someone could swim that. And sure enough, you know, a lot of Kiwis have, and it's just a beautiful swim, and I would definitely put that on my list.
What's been your favorite and what's been your most challenging swim?
I mean, this one was very challenging, and it ranks up there, I think, with Cook Strait as one of my favorites. And again, part of that isn't so much the objective features of the swim, it's just how it comes together with the people you're with, the people you're working with, the people who believe in you. And just, I guess, the feeling you have is just that all comes together. And yeah, so here in Hawaii, that was certainly true 2 days ago. Cook Strait in New Zealand, I certainly felt that way. But yeah, there've been tough swims and swims I didn't finish that were exactly the opposite, where you're just in there thinking, why am I here? This is the most absurd thing. But they haunt you and they keep drawing you back. But no, yeah, when you have those wonderful swims, they stay with you, and so do the friends and the people you meet and who help you make them happen.
What is the next swim on your list?
Oh, we want to try and talk Steve into letting us do this Maui Nui at some point, don't we? So yeah, that's probably going to lean on him to try and see if we can sneak in on that.
What is the Maui Nui? What are the stops?
So I see it on the map, but we'd have to consult the actual expert who created it. I don't even remember where we start. Do you start at Maui? And yeah.
Start anywhere you like.
Yeah.
Basically, it's 3 days, 3 channels.
Okay.
So, out channel, Kailolo, Kaloi.
And do you get to choose? Like, can you do the hard one first?
You can choose any direction. You can choose any order.
Okay, so yeah,
But
see,
it's always
just,
based on the weather.
okay, so yeah.
Set a year in advance, and you're hoping the weather's good.
Yeah.
Keep in mind we have no microphones over here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cutaways.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we should have rigged us all up here.
How did you feel physically? Describe to our viewers.
Yeah,
what
it's a beating.
to finally get on shore.
It's really a beating. Although I have to say, I thought we felt pretty good. Lynn joined me, sort of was swimming. Actually, just to make sure I didn't do anything foolish, like go off to the wrong section of land. And yeah, I got out. I felt pretty good. It's really not till after when things start to ache. And the one thing we often do, and something I think is one of the protocols we're going to be exploring in a lot of swim communities, knowing what we do now about increasing risks of skin damage from the sun. But we coat ourselves with layers of sunscreen and then with thick zinc oxide, Desitin's a favorite. So you come out looking, or you go in looking like this bizarre creature covered head to toe in zinc oxide. You come out with some of it sort of caked off and broken off, and as you're swimming, of course, it's rubbing off in there. So you have these strange sunburns that you thought you'd planned for but didn't, and so the next day is usually when you start to discover where things weren't protecting you as much as you'd hoped. And so yeah, you get a lot of point burns from the sun. Certainly a lot of shoulder stress. You'll feel pain all through the lats and around the rotator cuff and subscapular area. You're off in your stomach. is just in terrible shape. You're wrestling just with having mostly been consuming liquid carbohydrates, maybe with a few snacks if you choose. But I'm of the philosophy that you sort of, once you started the swim, you want to get it over with. So you don't want to be lingering around eating a lot. You just want to make sure you have something that's going to keep you sustained for anywhere from like 10 to 16 hours. But that does a lot of stress. It creates a lot of stress on your stomach, obviously. And so afterwards you're often feeling pretty queasy. It's hard to sort of get back into eating normally. Again, the salt has sort of been lingering in your mouth and all around your lips, so you're sort of always tasting this salty residue. It's often quite painful, sort of around the tongue. I'm not really selling this sport for you, am I? But but yeah, you also sort of feel like, okay, that was cool. We got this done, and so it's that's all going to heal. And often the story is, I've experienced this certainly on my English channel crossing. You're just like, you get out. Okay, that's the last one. But yeah, within a few hours or a couple of days, you're thinking, what's next? And hey, this was a cool swim someone told me about, and my friend tried this, and you're planning the next one. So jellyfish obviously are another thing we'll often encounter. I encountered had a pretty nasty sting just training off of just near Ala Moana there in Waikiki, which was a wake-up call. Had a few days, it healed up. But this swim, we were extraordinarily lucky. We managed not to encounter any jellies of any note at all. There was one, I think a Portuguese man of war floated near me. Luckily I didn't see it, but the captain saw it. And I did hit one small jellyfish, but luckily I'd caught it with my fingers right on the top, and the stingers didn't get me. But yeah, the stings can make a swim very, very interesting. So yeah, we're lucky there. Hope we'll keep being lucky.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being in there. I've been in the water and just been stung while standing there, and that kind of stops you, let alone you're trying to go 26 miles.
Interestingly, though, one of the, yes, but I think it's one of these things where you think, how could you possibly rationalize it this way? But it does take your mind off the insanity of what you've got ahead of you, right? That you're sort of, and I would say that's more on the colder swims. If you're swimming in Ireland or England, like some people actually think the jellyfish are good because you don't notice the cold for about 10 minutes because you think, that stung. I did not find that, but yeah, so you just sort of train yourself because it stings now, but yeah, in 10 minutes you're going to be okay. It's just going to be annoying. So yeah, it's one of the things we train for.
So sounds like you're already itching to get back in the water.
I don't know about that. But
when, I know you said the Maui Nui is the kind of the next goal,
we'd love to come back for
the
that,
long distance, but is there one in your near future, and when would that be?
This summer, I haven't planned any other swims, but I mean, the thing about this sport, this activity, I mean, so much of it is about how we support each other, how we just share these adventures. So I think a lot of us really, without being really pressed into it, kind of want to give back to our friends, our fellow swimmers, and Lynn and I are involved in Canada with several groups of local swimmers around the Great Lakes, and each summer we have swimmers coming from all over the world to try swims in the Great Lakes. So my summer will probably involve a lot of sitting on a boat and doing Lynn's and Jamie's and Steve's job, but on freshwater. So different challenges, but yeah, fewer stinging things. So a lot of my summer will be helping other people, do their swims and follow their dreams. And we've got some great swimmers coming to Canada to take a shot at an iconic swim in Lake Ontario between Toronto and Niagara on the Lake. So I'm looking forward to that. It's just, and sometimes, as Lynn knows, sometimes you get in and swim with them, just to set their pace or just stop them getting bored, or sometimes you just want to get in and sort of cool off. So there will be still some swimming, but it won't be probably quite as stressful. But yeah, so this summer, no more swims. Gives us a bit of time to plan for the next round.
And when do you head back to Canada?
So we're heading back tomorrow. We're flying out tomorrow night, and then yeah, it's back to work, and then back to planning some of these other swims for other swimmers, and yeah, I can't stress enough just you know, what a joy it is in this sport. I mean, you know, we compete. There are also range of personalities, but it really is extraordinary how you can travel around the world and sort of find your people, and you're just always surrounded by people who share this love of water, share this love of swimming, and want to help, and it draws you in, and you want to help, and that's always what makes these swims and these adventures so special, is just being a part of that community around the world, and knowing that, yeah, wherever you go, you can always go down to the beach and find the swimmers. So we'll be going back to our home waters, and swimmers will be finding us, and we'll be helping them swim their dreams. But
When your mouth is all cut up from the salt and everything, are you starving after the swim, and do you want to eat and you kind of aren't able to, or how do you?
everyone's
pass that
different.
challenge?
Everyone's different, but yeah, I tend not to want to eat, which is probably a bad thing. Sometimes my crew is sort of forcing me to eat something. Other people here are famished, and yeah, it's kind of miserable, because the thing you wanted to eat does not taste like what you remembered. But yeah, usually you have a plan before the swim, because you know this is going to happen. So you have some things around that your crew will help you make sure you're nourished enough to get back to where you need to be. When my very first major marathon swim was Lake Ontario, it was 50 odd kilometer, so yeah, I was 10 miles. That's a big swim. And I remember coming out and feeling great. And I was walking around, people were meeting me, you know, I was like, hey, this is great, thanks for coming out to the finish. And I had two friends on the crew who were just following me, like right behind me. Like, I was like, what the, you know, Christine, I mean, what are you doing? Why? I was like, well, I don't know, this is being weird. And it was about 8 minutes. They told me it was 8 minutes, but after I'd been going around shaking hands, saying hi, the next thing I remember is they'd propped me up against a tree, and they were forcing me to drink a flat can of Coke. Just because they knew this was going to happen, right? And I didn't. I guess I thought, no, I'm feeling great. But they had that all planned out hours before. They're thinking, look, whatever he's doing, we're going to make sure at some point, you know, before he crashes or when he crashes, that he basically consumes a ridiculously sort of sugary, caffeinated beverage. And sure enough, that was enough. Excuse me, that was enough. I felt great after that, and could then go cool off and recover and collapse in a more dignified setting. But yeah, that's the kind of planning we do beforehand to make sure that, yeah, people who, when we finish and it's like, no, I don't need anything to eat. And even this swim, Jamie was quietly, but it's definitely telling me to put on a jacket. And he was being very polite about it, but eventually it was clear he wasn't going to take no for an answer. And it was the right call. By the time the sun set, it was like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling shivery. So again, yeah, you trust your crew, and you have a plan, and yeah, the plan involves nutrition, and you know the conditions you're going to be finishing in, how you're going to get from those finishing conditions to the transition, to a boat, to the dock, to your hotel, and that's all sort of, you know, someone has that planned out, and you've discussed it beforehand. So if you're not really thinking straight, the people around you are making sure that you're safe. But yeah, it's ridiculous people put this much work into this, but it's also wonderful, and yeah, really humbling and delightful. So
It takes a village.
yeah, exactly.
Obviously.
And this is, I mean, we talk about this, you know, that they're solo swims. You're swimming alone. You're never alone, and you're never really doing this on your own. It's always the team. None of this happens without, you know, this extraordinarily dedicated and experienced group of people on the boat, on the shore, you know, sort of back on, you know, tracking the GPS to make sure they're watching the weather for you, and that the captain's, you know, weather reports are matching what the satellite weather's showing. Yeah, it's just an enormous community effort, and that village sort of gets one person across, but that person knows that, that there is one part of this, and maybe the foolish part, but it's, it really is a team effort and a community. I had a friend, a dear friend and a swimming mentor of Lynn and mine, Madhu Nagaraja. He's swum the English Channel. He swum the Straits of Magellan, the southern tip of South America. But he would always say this: look, it really isn't about the swimming. Because of course it's about the swimming. We're doing all this training. We're doing these swims. Oops, sorry, what did I do there? But yeah, it's not about the swimming. It's about this team. It's about this community. It's about making this thing happen together. And yeah, it's a wisdom that I now see quite clearly.
It's a great sentiment to end on, thanking everyone that helped you get through that swim and giving them the gratitude that they deserve as well. So I'll end it by saying congratulations, and can't wait to see the next swim.
Yep, well, thank you so much. This has been a real delight, and thank you for welcoming us here to the studio.
No
and,
problem.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Swim on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.